Alright guys, Mack again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Pred has given his thoughts on the OpTic Pred chants that were occurring back at Major 3 and the fact that they did have some effect on his mental and his performance during the event itself. But also the CDL coaches have ranked their top 12 teams in the league right now. Potentially a bit of a surprise still coming in here at number 1. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, just wanted to say from Gunners here because the Elite qualifiers are coming soon. It's a little while, a week and a bit now until we have the matches back for the CDL side, but the Elite is coming up quickly. The sprint glitch is here, and this is one of the key issues that's been added into the game with the update. Infinity Ward nowhere to be found on a fix for this, and it means that still Expo's not in the game, not being played for Control, bit of a shambles. So yeah, every day that goes past more frustrating, and the challengers have to deal with this sooner than the pro scene does, and the pros of course already back into practice and are probably playing Fortress Control right now, whereas there's a better map mode combination out there, but they literally can't do it because the game is broken as it stands. Now, these are some Rostermania rosters. So yesterday we saw a list of rosters in challenges that I believe most of them got blown up within about a 24-hour period. So here are the current NA rosters, at least as of yesterday. So again, some of these might be out of date, but just to see a Major Maniac's team, of course, as he tries to get back into league with Johnny, Wardy, and Standy. Wardy is a potential option for the subliners down the line because if they fail to perform, Wardy, like European player, was in a similar category for Beans really last season. Of course, has now been picked up. Generally an SMG though, Wardy. And there's a possibility there that over at the subliners team, if, let's say, Priester isn't performing so well and they want to make a change, maybe Wardy could step into that role if necessary. There's some options. He's their sub player anyway, so if they want to make a change, maybe that's where they look first. But of course, you've got Major Maniac, Johnny, Stanley, players that have been in the league before. Paul X's team, Zero, of course, coming back for the rest of the season. Dave Paddy, Parasite, Cryptic, notable FAs, but that could, of course, change relatively soon. Speaking of Rostermania, a bit of drama going on here. So Alex Rumans, I believe, I guess still current GM over at the Los Angeles Guerrillas because the organization hasn't entirely collapsed yet. And he tweets this out. So, can this team win another championship? This, of course, the YouTube video from the subliners, and it was no pressure episode, whatever episode number they're on right now. But of course, the way it worked out in the title, can this team win another chip? No, it's basically said. So pretty funny stuff. And Alex Rumans is like, reminder to take your YouTube title. So Matt Lacero here from the subliners, or from like New York Excelsior and just that organization in general, comes back and says, reminder not to let your own org combust and leave 40 people unemployed. So this ended up getting deleted and they had a further back and forth to kind of make up a little bit, but I just thought it was pretty entertaining in a way that, you know, you insult the title and your entire livelihood gets insulted back. So just classic drama really. And also Alex Rumans did comment on this on Reddit, I saw, because there was discussions is how Los Angeles Guerrillas have made this go so wrong with all the money and the investment they had. There's been some talk, I haven't really touched on it on the channel, about FaZe, because FaZe Clan are in the bin right now. Their stock price is like so low, they might be able to find a way to get it like still to be listed on the NASDAQ in certain ways, but it's not looking good. The thing is though, FaZe, Atlanta FaZe aren't owned by FaZe, they're owned by Atlanta Esports Ventures, an entirely different company with different backing to FaZe, and FaZe have effectively a marketing relationship with Atlanta Esports Ventures to brand them as the Atlanta FaZe for social media content and other things like that. And I believe some of the AEV guys are on the board of FaZe, but it's not the same company, so it probably will be okay unless those guys decide like actually the CDL isn't working out, we've got to go. But of course they've got pretty much the best team, so it's unlikely that they would, you know, they can actually do things with that. Whereas Guerrillas, having not formed the best team over the last few years, don't find themselves in a spot where, you know, maybe LAG as an organization and the guards would have said, you know what, let's keep this going had LAG built a powerhouse in the CDL, but they clearly haven't. Obviously many of the decisions they made were poor, and there was even some discussions on like giving away Slasher for free, and Alex Rubin says, yeah, that's cap. So Slasher, they did sell him to FaZe for something, but whether it was less than they got back for, you know, they bought Arcitys right from FaZe and they sent Slasher the other way. Who won in that transaction, I don't know. Whether it was a straight up trade, I don't think so. They probably paid more for Arcitys than the other way around, I don't know though, but yeah, possibly they didn't send him for free. At least that is the implication as it stands. Arcitys as well has been going through it the last few days. He says, you know, it's been a wild ride this chapter right now. It's about a learning experience, trusting the right people. So yeah, don't know what Arcitys is going to happen for him going forwards. I guess he's still on the starting roster for now, but still his stock is probably at all-time lows here, unfortunately, because he hasn't been playing that well. He's got this hand injury maybe that's there or thereabouts. Assault's been the better AR for the team lately. So yeah, if Arcitys is still on the roster and still going to be playing, then hopefully he can turn turn it around quickly because, you know, he was close, I guess, to getting on OpTic not long ago, but they couldn't make it work from an organizational perspective despite OpTic wanting him on the team, and that seems less and less likely to happen next season based on the way it currently stands. Let's talk then power rankings from the major. Mack asks the coaches, what do you guys think? And the 11 coaches, or well, the 12 coaches, but they vote on the 11 other teams that they can vote on and don't give their thoughts on their own team, and then we see what the coaches have to say. Now, these, of course, will align relatively well with the way the placements went for the major, but of course, there were some outliers there, right? Thieves had a poor event and some other potential questions as well. And also, who's the number one team? Is it FaZe? Is it Toronto Ultra? The coaches have gone for FaZe, and we'll see that here in a second. And well, this is the article in play. So the way this works is that I believe the maximum is 121 points you can accrue here. So FaZe and Toronto have 116 and 115 respectively. So ultra tight between the two of them. What this means is that I guess FaZe were voted the number one team by 6 of the coaches, and then 5 of the coaches voted for ultra to be number one, because I think there's only like 11 that will vote just because, you know, like they have to not vote for themselves, whatever the case is. But pretty much these numbers give you a relatively good indication of who should slot into which tier. And the coaches are still saying it that FaZe are number one. Now, I do wonder whether there's an element here for FaZe of just because they're FaZe that they end up getting voted number one by the coaches anyway, just because the coaches think, oh yeah, FaZe, they should be number one. To me, I'm not so convinced, to be honest, because they've been slotting here into the S tier in these rankings based on being number one by most. Are FaZe an S tier team right now? I think Toronto are. They won the event. They're good in all modes. FaZe's Search and Destroy is SS, like S plus tier, whatever you want to call it. Their control is maybe A tier, something like that. That might be even generous. Their control has not been phenomenal, but it's been pretty good against some of the top teams. But their hardpoint is B tier at best, even if like you could put them down in C tier. Their hardpoint win rate in the last 2 stages combined is 40% FaZe, which is like the 9th or 10th best in the league. It's pretty terrible. So they're a B tier hardpoint team, maybe an A tier control team, and their S&D is so good. So like I don't know if that constitutes an S tier team as it stands. They've got some serious problems to fix, I think, FaZe, if they want to win again, namely their hardpoints, whereas Toronto won the event and they're good at all the modes. So to me, I would have put Toronto number one, I think. Whether you put FaZe in the S tier or whatever is a bit of a question, but to me, I would have said Ultra number one in my opinion, but you guys might disagree and tweet your thoughts in the comments below. Then we go down to OpTic Texas. They get number 3rd quite comfortably here, so from 115 down to 95 points, so they're quite comfortably in their own tier there, really. Best hardpoint team in the game right now, certainly they were at the major, so I think that pretty much makes sense based on the results. Then though, Thieves in 4th, and this is the discussion for many of the pros, that Thieves are better than they're showing at the major. I forget who it was saying on stream that Thieves are just really good in practice and in scrims and everything, and in the majority of matches they play, but they just didn't make it work at the major. Their Search and Destroy, I think, let them down a fair bit, but the coaches still think their Thieves are number 4, which is, you know, it's only marginal though over Boston. Like, it's really tight actually between Thieves, Boston, and Surge. Like, these 4, 5, 6 really tightly knit here in, I guess, what some people would consider the B tier right now, but in the tier that probably could win an event on their day, but isn't quite there at the moment. Then we go down to the next tier with the Subliners here, who have definitely fallen off a fair bit lately. They're quite away, it seems, away at this point from trying to win again, but I don't think they're going to make a change right now. Then Vegas Legion in 8th. So right now the coaches say that Vegas are the 8th best team by quite the margin over the rest of the league. And if this stays as it is, they might be able to make a comeback on the Rokkr, but I think they're going to need to get a couple more top 6s, really, Vegas, if they are to make that happen, because they've got 20 points to make up. Rokkr could just fall off a cliff and they might make it work here, Vegas, but it's still going to be a tough thing to accomplish. But they're the 8th best team according to the coaches. Then Ravens, then Rokkr, of course, 10th best, then Mutineers, and then Los Angeles Guerrillas, with quite a way away from the rest of the league. And I thought it was funny, I guess Roosevelt put this together and he decided to put Guerrillas in their own category all the way for the right hand side, just to show how terrible they are according to the coaches right now. So not a pretty sign, but I think on the whole this list is pretty good. I would maybe have a gripe around the way the S tier works. I'd probably put Ultra number 1, but apart from that, most of this makes a fair bit of sense to me right now. That Ultra and FaZe as it stands, you'd put money on those teams making it to Championship Sunday. OpTic should, but aren't exactly guaranteed. And then these other teams in the B tier could probably all make a Championship Sunday and a Grand Finals on their day, but it's not always going to happen as it stands. But they've got potential to move up. Certainly Thieves, I think, are the team that's potentially the one to watch here going into Major 4. But Toronto right now, the only team that was able to pull something like this off with a great record in hardpoint, 10-6, a solid performance in Search and Destroy, 7-5, and phenomenal control. So an S tier control control team, an A to S tier hardpoint team, and good enough in search and destroy to get them over the line, but it was their respawn that was really dominant for them this tournament, especially in the grand finals as well, when they beat OpTic in those 2 hardpoints. Speaking of OpTic, of course, Pred, when he was at the major, there was a lot of discussion with Pred versus the crowd and the OpTic Pred chants that were happening, and whether they were affecting Pred's mental, whether he was hearing those chants and thinking, oh, damn, like, what's going on here? Because was it affecting his teammates? That's another question as well, knowing this, oh, yeah, the crowd wants OpTic Pred. Was it affecting Huke? I don't know. It was a really weird turn of events, I thought. But I thought it was funny, actually, because he team killed Mack, right? And it was like, oh, OpTic Pred's going undercover or whatever. And he was laughing about it, right? So maybe you would have had a different reaction if the crowd hadn't been chanting what they were chanting. And he says that, well, it didn't affect him so much. It didn't, like, check him out mentally, but he says that he did think about it, right? It did make him think. So there certainly was an element there where the crowd were, you know, trying to get in Pred's head, and it seemed to be working.
How was the OpTic crowd? I mean, the OpTic crowd was good, man. I mean, it's always the green was obviously easy, right? Like, there's no better fan base in COD right now. Like, I mean, I don't think there ever has been. But yeah, I'll be honest though, like, yeah, dude, they're hilarious, bro. Like, the chants they were doing was actually comedy, bro. Like, it was actually. Wait, Alec. Bro, if you were in my situation, you were getting like those chants that I was getting, would you be checked?
Chance?
Like, I was, when they'll chant, I was playing OpTic and they'll chanting OpTic Pred. Like, would you be checked?
Check hard.
Dude, I didn't know what to think. Like, if their game plan was to check me, like, they didn't check me, but they definitely got me thinking. I was like, what's going on right now? You know what I mean? I was kind of like, like, it made me think, like, hold on, bro. I had to tell my team, like, yo, don't listen to that, bro. We better send these guys, like, send you guys home.
I say, you listen to it. Say, listen, they want us. They want me, like.
I was like, yo, I was at my team, like, yo, don't listen to that. I better send you guys home.
So I guess job well done for the green wall to some respects, because they clearly did have some effect on Pred. Now, they didn't exactly slow down his individual performance, but nonetheless, in the match they played when he team kills Mack here, and of course OpTic got to win the series, it was pretty crucial for OpTic that series that they won. And yeah, wonder what Pred thinks about it really, because he says at the start of the clip as well, like, playing for the green wall, playing in front of that crowd, there's nothing better in COD. I know that many pros would agree, but that statement from Pred is still pretty interesting given, you know, the possibility of him playing for that crowd next season rather than against them, you could argue, at the present time. Also wanted to mention though, because Shotzzy the other day has been trying out the Vel, I believe it is, or effectively the MP7 in this game, and I mentioned to you guys the other day, there's a possibility this might be viable right now. I know Exclusive Ace made a video on this last night, and he came up with a ranked play setup here and says that this is a possible alternative to the Vaznev as it stands. So the Vaznev has been, you know, some players like it, some players don't, but Shotzzy was trying the MP7, seems a bit more forgiving at times than the Vaznev as well, and okay, it might not be overall quite as good, but I think it might be viable, and we have seen in previous games the likes of the Uzi and other weapons, for example Modern Warfare 2019 when Envoy started to use the Uzi, that was a viable gun compared to the MP5 that was started to be used around, like, you know, 60% into the game's life cycle. That gun started to see some use, and it's possible some pros here might pull out the Vel. We saw last year as well in Vanguard, some players would use alternative weapons at times, and it might be the time where players decide to do this. Shotzzy's been playing with it, Exclusive Ace believes it might be viable, so one to keep your eyes on and give a test out as well, if you want to see how it goes. And just to finish off with this from the COD, just some notes on SR party restrictions, the way that things currently work in terms of who you can play with if you're in a certain party. If you're squadding up, you can only play with skill divisions such as this. Makes sense really, but I'll share some thoughts from, I believe, aBeZy later on in the day on how he would like this to be made instead. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Bro, I promise you. Alright, wait, hold up.
Yeah, get the
Xbox, turn off.
No.